Everybody. This is Carolina with the Nonprofit Partnership. And I am really happy to bring another interview to you today live on our Facebook page. This is part of our series called Our Stories, Our Time. And this is where we interview nonprofit leaders to understand how the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, is affecting their work, their programs, and their services. And again, we've been saying this since we started doing the series. We really value the ability to keep connected to one another. We understand how important it is, especially during these times. And so part of what this looks like for us is ensuring that we're talking to the organizational leaders out there that are having to make a lot of decisions, obviously, about where their organizations are and what is changing for their organizations and the communities they're working in. And today I am really, really excited to be joined by a good friend of ours, Dr. Christine Petit, who's the Executive Director of Long Beach Forward. Christine, welcome. We're so glad you're joining us today.
Thank you so much. And thanks so much for having me, Carolina. I'm really excited for this opportunity and really excited that you're doing this, having this conversation with other nonprofit leaders in the city and beyond.
Thank you. And thank you for saying yes today. We're very excited to have you. So Christine, tell us more about Long Beach Forward. Give us a little bit more about your organization, a little bit of its history, what you're working on right now.
Yeah. Long Beach Forward is a community-based organization with the vision that race and income won't determine one's future in Long Beach, and that it's a community that is safe, connected, and healthy for all. So we really work as a support organization, a movement building organization to build community knowledge, leadership, and power to create healthy systems in Long Beach and to address many of the long-standing inequities that have been created over time and are going to take a lot of hard work to undo. And those are inequities that we see exacerbated by the current times that we're in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think we're going to touch a little bit more about that as we continue to know more about you and your work. But one of the questions we've been asking everyone we have interviewed is really how the pandemic has impacted the work, how it's impacted the staff team, what they're seeing in the community. So share with us a little bit more about what Long Beach Forward is seeing right now.
Yeah. One of the ways that we often describe our work is that we're the glue between residents, community-based organizations, and decision makers as we work to create the change that we want to see in Long Beach. A lot of our work is relational, in person, in meetings, talking to people face to face. And so, of course, we've had to shift in major ways. And we had major work that needed to shift as well. And so some of the biggest pieces that we've shifted are around our census work. So making sure that everybody in Long Beach is counted. That has huge implications for the resources that our community receives, for our democracy overall in terms of elections, representation. And, April 1st was the day. And everyone was working toward April 1st to get people counted and then figure out what the response rate was and do some of that follow-up. Those conversations often need to take place person to person at the doors because who we're working with and trying to make sure gets counted are those who are often uncounted. Maybe they don't have the information about the census, maybe their living situation is precarious, or maybe they're just afraid to fill out the census. And so they need a trusted messenger to talk to them and walk them through that. And so we've definitely had to make major shifts there and also just pay attention to the shifting timeline of the federal government. So they did extend the census through October right now, and it may be extended again. We don't really know, but the resources to ensure an adequate count are not necessarily there right now. And it's not super surprising given the administration that we have. They're not very concerned about ensuring that immigrants are counted, folks of color are counted, low-income folks are counted, but we're really passionate about that and trying to figure out how best to pivot that work. And we work with a lot of dedicated nonprofit partners and grassroots leaders on this. So have been working to kind of flex and adapt that approach and figure out what that looks like in creative ways as well. Another area that took a lot of finessing was a participatory budgeting process that was underway as part of our Best Start work. And Best Start Central Long Beach is one of the initiatives that we support in Long Beach with the 0 to 5 population, their caregivers and families and parents. So we were really excited to be supporting a community-based process to allocate funds to projects that community members and organizational partners had proposed in alignment with the goals of the partnership. Those goals being around education related to child development, secure housing, economic stability, preventing child abuse and neglect. Mm-hmm. So our team really had to get creative because a lot of what we do, again, is in person and meetings. But I'm amazed by the way that they have worked together and worked with the residents and organizational partners to actually launch the voting process, which is happening now on those projects. And it's online, but we know many of our members are also might have challenges to voting online. And so our organizers are working with them to call them and help them with the process as well. So those are just two examples of ways that we've had to work to shift the work that we're doing.
Yeah, and it's quite a shift, you know, as you're illustrating. So much of your work, again, is that convening, that really in-person moderating group conversations. So the shifts that you're describing, I mean, are incredible in light of the fact that I think organizations had to adapt very, very quickly to making these shifts. And trying to take on as much as they could online. But, you know, interestingly, and I know that, you know, we kind of run in the same circles at times, and the interesting to note that the participatory budgeting process that Long Beach Forward right now is coordinating is, I believe, the only one in North America that's still going. Participatory budgeting is a process that's popular throughout many countries, actually. And it's a highly democratic way of engaging local communities in this process to decide, you know, what to do when there are pools of money available for local projects, for example. So, gosh, kudos to Long Beach Forward. Kudos to all of the resident leaders that you're working with. They're keeping this going.
Yeah, and thank you also to the nonprofit partnership, because you are a partner in this work. I'm really proud that we are one of the only, or the only project in North America that continues to move this work forward right now. And I hope that being in partnership with those other projects, you know, I understand people have different priorities right now. And so for some of that to be on hold totally makes sense. For our team, we did need to slow it down. We needed to adjust a little bit and say, like, yeah, that timeline that we had, that's not realistic. Or also knowing that online is not an ideal platform for people. Many of the residents that we work with who speak Spanish or Khmer predominantly. So we just had to kind of adjust and slow down a little bit, think about what is a thoughtful plan to still move this work forward. Some of the things that we work on, we've said, no, we're going to hold it. We're going to hold off on it right now. We have a Boards and Commissions Leadership Institute that we work in partnership with the Los Angeles Alliance for a New Economy on, the Long Beach Coalition. And we just said, right now we're pausing it. Yeah. Right now we're figuring out, like, if commissions are meeting, how they're meeting. Some of them are, by the way, but, you know, there was a lot to kind of figure out, like, how is democracy going to work right now? And right. So we're not training people on that right now, but it's something that we'll come back to in the future. And we also just have done a lot to support our partners who are really on the ground working with people who were facing evictions, facing layoffs, or not having access to paid sick days or family leave, undocumented immigrants who are often locked out of any of the relief that's being provided. And so a lot of the folks that we work with, that our partners work with, are really the most vulnerable. And so needing to kind of shift gears, shift priorities to that rapid response as well.
Which, obviously speaks to this level of work, like you said, you're shifting. And that's still work that obviously, it is highly needed. And Long Beach Forward works with a very well connected network of different organizations that are also partners in this work. But in general, is there anything that, has come back to you as far as what communities are saying they're experiencing right now? Is there just some general feedback that you'd like to share at this point?
Yeah, I think, what we're seeing is that issues of equity and issues of accessing democracy are even more critical at this moment. Like, COVID-19 just shines a light on the fact that, yes, Black folks are dying at higher rates from COVID-19. Immigrants are locked out of resources. People of color, low-income folks are the most likely to be essential workers, most likely to be exposed. The things that we're seeing are nothing new. There's just a microscope on it. And I often talk about, like, we were already in a pressure cooker. Families and communities were already in a pressure cooker, and this just turns the pressure up on people. And so I'm glad that some of these inequities are getting attention. For many of the communities we work with, it's both, like, yes, an acknowledgement, and also this is the reality that folks have been grappling with for a long time. And so a lot of our work is centered around the fact that there are massive health inequities in Long Beach. If you look at zip codes, there's a 7-year life expectancy difference depending on where you live. If you break that down to the census tract level, it's up to 17 years difference.
Wow.
So yeah, and that's in one city that you can have just based on where you live and the resources available to you. That impacts your life by up to 17 years.
Wow.
So this just shines a light on these longstanding inequities. And I think it raises a lot of questions about what's next.
Yeah.
How can we do things better as a society? This clearly isn't working for a lot of people. And then the issues of democracy too. And of course, democracy is a big part of creating equity, creating the change that we want to see, having the voices of people who are most impacted by these issues front and center. And right now, cities, including ours, and cities on up to the state and national level, are grappling with how to really involve people in the processes as meetings move online or over the phone. Currently still in the city, people only have access to e-comment when it comes to city council meetings. And we don't have simultaneous interpretation right now as well. The city is working out its language access process, and we have, a coalition of folks who are working on that to ensure that this information, which is really, when you talk about COVID-19, life or death information, that it's reaching communities, that it's accurate, it's translated well, they receive it. So, there's people responding in the moment, but also looking at, like, okay, what do we need to do better? And maybe this can also create some momentum to doing better and having a bold vision for what's next.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for bringing that up, because certainly as we come across other organizations, other nonprofit leaders, they really are starting to highlight, I think, what you're just describing right now, that we have to be very mindful about what this situation has unearthed as well, has made it even more obvious for all of society to see that there are some very deep entrenched systems of inequality and it's like you said, I mean, for many communities, it is a matter of life and death. And it's very real.
Yeah.
So thank you for highlighting that and for bringing that up. I know that Long Beach Forward will continue to be one of the organizations here in our city that will always work to ensure that it's shedding light on those processes or systems or structures that are really creating these hindrances to full participation from all members of our society. So thank you so much for your work in that regard. And again, grateful that you're bringing this issue of equity and democracy up, because we do need to be talking about these things. And just kind of shifting a little bit, Christine, at this point, what have been some of the impacts on Long Beach Forward? Not so much your work, but on the organization itself. Can you shed a little bit of light on that?
Yeah, I mean, like everyone, we had to pivot really quickly. I'm the type of person who, like, I never took germs very seriously, to be honest, you know, and so, but very rapidly it was like, oh, okay, we need to pay attention to this. We really need to pay attention to this. And our associate director, James Swazo, is part of regional networks who were sharing information. And so as soon as I really started understanding it, I was like, okay, we need to help our team understand that this is a very serious issue. We're going to have to pivot very quickly. And so that's what we did. We, you know, said, okay, everyone is now working remotely. What do you need to make that happen? Because it's not ideal. I mean, sometimes I'm in the car to get some quiet because I have a 3-year-old at home too. So, you know, for some of us like me, it's shifting to childcare at home, working at home, all of that stuff. I think the biggest reframe that was helpful to me that I shared with our team too is we're not working remotely, we're at home during a crisis trying to work. And that's really the approach that, you know, I've tried to share with our team, to give myself some grace and space, to give them some grace and space, to realize this is a really hard time that we're in.
Yeah.
And a lot of uncertainty too. And so we worked to be as clear as possible about what was expected, including the fact that 100% is not what we're expecting right now. But we are expecting communication. You know, if something is a challenge, if you're struggling, if a family member is sick or someone's laid off, if you can't get a quiet space, let's just talk about it and troubleshoot together. And so to me, that was the most important thing. And also just early on, we offered a mental health day too, just to say, hey, take a day in the next 2 weeks to just really focus on yourself. And of course, we do have sick leave and, you know, time to make adjustments as well for other needs. But I think that's just a really important piece. And we've also had staff members move on during this period, move on to other positions and opportunities. And we're so excited for them. And it's also hard to not be able to say goodbye in the way that we normally would, and to celebrate them and their contributions to our team. On the other hand, we welcomed new members remotely, and they haven't met many of the members of the team in person. And so it's been kind of surreal to see the faces on the Zoom meetings change. And that's what it is right now. And so I know when we come back, it'll definitely take some adjusting too. But overall, our team's amazing. I'm so grateful just to see the work that they do in the community. And, you know, they're dedicated 110%. If anything, sometimes I'm like, slow down, pace yourself, like, you know, but that's been the biggest thing, is just getting used to this strange reality that we're in and not really knowing what's next for us. But knowing now, like, things are going to change in pretty profound ways.
Yes.
Just how we're interacting with one another, how our society is structured. And so, you know, we want to be we want to be there to help move things in an equitable direction.
Yes. And you're so right. I think the examples you just shared with us right now are a great reminder that organizational life continues. You know, there will still be transitions during these times. And it's like life, you know, it mirrors it. But, you know, I think what you're highlighting too is a story that's been shared throughout as well, where sometimes the lines can get blurred rather easily between your work life and what you're doing and what you have to do to continue to move the mission forward and the work forward, with some personal time and oftentimes not making time to just sort of assess personally where you are, your family. That can get a little blurred. And I would assume that with some of the work your staff do, I mean, they're always on the front lines, always convening with folks who are in situations that are very precarious as well. So thanks for sharing that. And I think we're also very curious to see how you introduce balance to your very busy life as well. So tell us about what you do for self-care.
Yeah. So about almost 10 years ago, I realized some core components of my life are my passion for social justice. But with that, creativity and mindfulness. And I've really been trying to bring in more of the creativity and mindfulness during this time. I mean, as an executive director, you always have to be kind of creative. And it's good to be mindful and bring mindfulness in, but it doesn't always happen. And so, you know, some of the things that I do, I have started practicing meditation more regularly. That has been a part of my life for many years, but it kind of ebbs and flows how much I'm tapping into it, and I'm finding it to be really important right now. It's something I also bring into team spaces, just a little bit of grounding breaths, or, you know, offering a short meditation, because as people jump from Zoom meeting to Zoom meeting, it can be a little hard to say, like, okay, here I am right now in this moment, in this meeting. But also, I know you asked about self-care and I went back to work, so there's some of the blurred lines.
The lines are already getting blurred here now.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, we all need it, I know, but just speaking personally, I'm the executive director of an organization. I'm a mom of a 3-year-old, a partner, and I have most of my family is in Oregon, and my mom's on hospice care in Oregon. I was supposed to go visit her 2 weeks ago, and, you know, haven't, and it's hard. And so I think part of it is just recognizing this is hard. It was hard before. It's especially hard now. And so, you know, for me, I found it helpful to actually have a schedule where, and I'm lucky I have a partner who can do this. So I take the morning shift of childcare from the time my daughter wakes up, sometimes at 6 a.m. I'm happier when it's a little later, until 2 p.m. And then I work from 2 p.m. till 9, 10, whatever. Sometimes a little bit of work blends in with my family time and vice versa. But I find it's helpful for me to be able to focus on one thing at a time, and I have that flexibility in my schedule. I'm super grateful for that. You know, talking with other executive director parents, that's not always the case. People are flying back and forth between meeting and child, and, you know, also my daughter's 3, so I don't have to work her through her whole her whole school curriculum and all of that. And I have a partner. You know, some people are doing this on their own. So I think, you know, for me, having a schedule has been helpful. A practice of affirming what I'm grateful for. There's a lot that I am grateful for during this time. And I've been trying to sprinkle in 1 yoga session a week and 2 walks/jogs, just to keep my body moving as well. And then just one other thing, I'm big on self-care. So one other thing that's been really helpful is I am graduating from a coaching certification program in May, which I'm super excited about. But part of that life and leadership coaching that I'm doing is that I get coaching a lot from my peers. So I always, you know, there's no shortage of things to get coaching and support around right now. So that, and I'm a proponent of therapy. After I had my daughter, I started seeing a someone who specializes in postpartum care, and I find that to be incredibly helpful right now as I'm navigating being like a full-time parent and a full-time worker. So just, you know, finding different ways to get support, and I'm grateful that I'm able to do that.
Thank you, Christine. You know, thanks for sharing that. I think what you shared, your techniques, your approaches really resonate with others too. It's always fun to know how our different leaders really finding balance in their lives, because to your point earlier, there are days that it can feel pretty overwhelming, right? So thank you for sharing that. And before we conclude our interview today, because can you believe it? We're at time. Time flies by when you're having fun and, you know, talking and connecting. So we have a big announcement to make, don't we?
Yes.
And all you lucky people out there in Facebook land watching us live will know, you will be the first to know, that the Nonprofit Partnership is partnering with Long Beach Forward to continue this narrative of Our Stories, Our Time. So we are very, very happy to partner with you, Christine. You will be co-hosting these series as well, meaning you will have organizational leaders that you will be interviewing. And we as the Nonprofit Partnership will also continue. So we're going to split our time in the week. So one day of the week, you will be seeing Christine interview different leaders. The other day of the week, you'll still be seeing me or one of my TNP colleagues interview as well. So we are doubling up. We're collaboration in action. And thank you, Christine. A lot of this, you know, really came from Christine saying, hey, you know, I really like the storytelling that's happening. How can we also contribute to that?
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. First of all, I'm really excited to be the interviewer and not the interviewee. I mean, I'm sure it's not all it's cracked up to be, but I'm excited for that opportunity to be on the other side of this. And I just think it's so important to create this dialogue and space. So I really appreciate the leadership of the Nonprofit Partnership in this, and also the collaboration that I said, hey, I had an idea to also interview some of our partners with our initial work, which was Building Healthy Communities Long Beach and beyond, and the folks who are really doing that grassroots organizing and working with those who are most impacted. So thank you so much for the opportunity to collaborate on that. Our first interview will be with Leanne Chen of My Girls in Action.
Yes, that's exciting.
Yeah,
I'm super excited. That's great. No, and thank you, Christine. We're very happy, very honored to partner with you, because we can also continue to highlight more stories. There's so many wonderful organizations and groups that are so dedicated to their communities. We want to do our best to highlight as much of this, and really throughout the processes start to see what are these stories that are weaving together, right? So again, thank you so much. It's been wonderful having you, and we will look forward to having you host pretty soon. So be on the lookout. We'll be making those announcements on our Facebook page very soon. So again, thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon.